Shalawam. This is Adatabas Saiwan returning with the book of Revelation, and we're coming to the conclusion of this amazing book of prophecy of the end times. And we are in the conclusion of chapter 21. This is part 3, and this is called the construct of our holy city, New Yarawashalam. In part 1, we looked at the new heavens, the new earth, and new Yarawashalam. We went into some description of the new Yarawashalam and what it's all about. And in part 2, we took a deeper look at new Yarawashalam, called the bride, the Lamb's wife. And now we're going to look at the actual construct of our holy city. And this is a pretty long study, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And we're going to go into verses 16 and 17 of Revelation chapter 21. And the city lies foursquare, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed, 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. And he measured the wall thereof, 144 cubits, according to the measurement of a man, that is, of the angel. The angel measured the city to give us specifics about its magnitude, how great in size it's going to be, and also about the pure worship that will flow from it. So we know from the past, when we have looked at the temple being measured, Yawachanan himself measured the temple, and he was told to leave out the outer court. That's where the Gentiles are going to trample. But there's a spiritual connection, there's a spiritual meaning behind measuring or measurements when it comes to measuring, whether it is the temple or whether it is measuring the city. The obvious meaning is, yes, a physical measurement, but there's a deeper meaning, and that deeper meaning has to do with worship. So when Yawachanan was given the instruction to measure, he was given a reed to measure the temple. He was actually measuring not the size of it, he was measuring the worship that ought to have been coming from the temple, but was not. That's why it was given to the Gentiles to trample. You see, we're living in the time of the Gentiles, where they're given the opportunity to hang themselves, so to speak. The 12 tribes of Yashraal have been scattered. They have been removed from their land. And because we are the light of the world, it is only through us that this world, include all of the Gentiles, can know what true worship is all about. Because we know the Gentiles, they do not have a covenant with Alahayam Yahweh. So therefore, any worship that they have is the worship of devils. They are in pagan worship. And because we were disobedient, our forefathers, I should say, were disobedient and played the harlot by worshiping other idols, worshiping gods, and in pagan worship. Some of it was abomination before the eyes of Alahayam. And what did he do in the end? He scattered us from our land and said, okay, you want to play the harlot? You want to go and worship other gods? You want to go into pagan worship? You want to do the things that I warned you not to do? Go right ahead. And at the same time, serve the masters that are going to lead you in pagan worship. And let me know how that works out for you. And here we are today, living in the lands of our captivity, still slaves. Okay? But in the meantime, when the tabernacle was destroyed in our land, it was destroyed. Well, Alahayam, he was the one who started the destruction, but he led the Romans in to complete the destruction. That was the Gentile. Those were the Gentiles trampling upon his outer court. He already took away his presence and his precious articles. What was left, he said, you go ahead and destroy it. Because my people who are called by my name, they don't want it. They don't want to worship me. So for a season, the Gentiles have been trampling the worship of Alahayam. And we know that they've introduced our forefathers when they were taken as slaves. Introduced? No, they were indoctrinated into pagan worship. Identities removed. Culture removed. Worship removed. Everything was removed. And all that our forefathers had left were the identity, culture, and worship, language even, that the slave masters handed down to them. Not to mention the parts of the pig that they themselves did not want to eat. They gave it to our forefathers to eat. And they went ahead and ate it. That's part of the punishment. That was part of the punishment. And to this day, you can't tell some of our people stop eating pig. They will stone you first. But I digress. So it's about measuring true worship that flowed from the city. So the angel was given, the angel had a golden reed, and he measured the size of the city, because we know he has given Yarawashalam the size of it all, the length and the breadth and the height of it, 12,000 furlongs. But at the same time, spiritually speaking, he measured the pure worship that will be flowing from the city. The height of the holy city is measured at its highest point, and based on its measurements, many have assumed it to be like a cube, which it will not be. So yes, the height, the breadth, and the length, they're equal, 12,000 furlongs. Natural minds will say it's a cube. Spiritual minds that are connected to Alahayam will say, no, it's not. The highest point in the city will be 12,000 furlongs and no higher, no bigger, no higher. And we can venture to say that the highest point in the city will be where the throne of Alahayam and HaMashayach will be. It is where their thrones will be. The highest point in the city. Because all things flow from them. The river of life is going to be flowing from them. The tree of life is going to be right next to the river of life. Worship is going to be flowing from them. Glory is going to be flowing from them. And they are, and it says in the scriptures, they will be the tabernacle, the temple. So of course they're going to be in the middle of the city. At the highest point. All eyes will be able to look up and see them. All around. Nothing will be withheld from our eyes. Yes, When we see the size of the city, you might think, well, that's going to be a great distance to be able to see the throne room. But remember when Adam and Hawa were in the Garden of Eden? Nothing was hidden from their eyes. Nothing on the earth, nothing beneath the earth, and nothing in the heavens. They could see as far as they wanted to see. Nothing was hidden from their eyes. After they sinned, then that ability to see was shut off. That ability to see into the spiritual realm, that is, was shut off. And now they can only see in the natural. Now they can only see what is before them. If something is hiding behind a tree, they can't see it. Okay. So this is the highest point, and all eyes will be able to see them because we will not be like natural beings anymore. So no matter where we will be able to see, no matter where we go, we'll be able to see them. Even if we go out of the city, we will still be able to see them. Talking about HaMashayach and Yahweh. Okay? So it's not going to be a cube. A cube is a different kind of beast. Right? It is a beast of itself. Let us not be natural minded. The cube is the worship of Saturn, another deity worshipped by the Romans and many other civilizations throughout the ages, and religions today. Many religions today worship the cube and they don't even know it. No, they don't. You can tell by the day that they worship on. If you're worshiping on Saturday, you're worshiping the day of Saturn. I know some of our Hebrew Israelite camps, they worship Friday evening to Saturday evening just like the Jewish people in our land. And we know those people in our land are not the true people, so why are we worshiping like them? Why are we calling on their gods? They say the seventh day is Saturday, from Friday evening to Saturday evening. They do it, and our ignorant Hebrew Israelite brethren do the same things too, not knowing that that is the worship of Saturn. They worship Saturn. And we know other Christian churches, they worship only on Saturday. That is the worship of Saturn. We know other religions, they worship the cube. That is also the worship of Saturn. We have festivities like Saturnalia, amongst many others, which are attributed to the worship of the cube. Now, this worship of the cube is nothing new. It's been around for many, many, many generations. The Romans worshipped Saturn. All right, Saturn or the cube, they worship the gods of the cube. All right, and it's easy to determine where this cube fits into our civilization. Look at Saturnalia. Saturnalia or Saturnalia is part of, or it was worshipped in the days of the Romans, and today it has been morphed into the Christmas celebration. This is how they redress pagan worship to cause people to worship their gods. And if you don't do your research, you'll be worshiping pagan gods and think that you're worshiping the Most High. All right? You have to do your homework. The seventh day is not stationary. All right? The seventh The seventh day of the week is not stationary. The Roman Empire made it stationary. They changed the times and they changed the laws. And that's why when we persist in worshiping Friday evening to Saturday evening as our Shabbat, you're worshiping a pagan god. There are times as Oberai, that's Yashwa'al. Oberai is our language. Yashwa'al, when we do our calendars, and I will get around to doing that pretty soon, as soon as I'm finished with this series. When you do the calendar, sometimes our Shabbat will fall on a Friday evening, Saturday evening. But that's not very often. That's maybe once or twice a year, sorry. And when it falls on Friday evening, Saturday evening, that is our Shabbat. That is our seventh day. There's nothing wrong with that. We're still worshiping Alahayam. Okay. So all these festivities and the worship on Saturdays is all attributed to the worship of the cube. And many people today worship this cube directly and indirectly. And this holy city will definitely not be in a cube shape. Now, this reminds me long time ago when I used to be a Star Trek fan. This is before I became a believer. And you know how they love to indoctrinate us with television shows and movies and music and all kinds of entertainment. Social media now today is the method chosen to indoctrinate the young people. But back in our days, we didn't have social media. We just had television. And so Star Trek was the popular show of our time, one of them. And I remember there was a particular species by the name of the Borg. And what they did, they used to travel around the so-called ever-expanding universe in space in a cube. All right? Their ship was a cube. And they were taken as slaves from different lands that this cube conquered. And who they didn't kill, they brought in as slaves and they changed them to be half man, half machine, or half whatever creature they were, half machine. And when they became half man, half machine, they were now integrated into the cube, assimilated. And so the idea behind this particular species was that they all had the same thought. They all had the same mind. They all spoke the same language. They had a beehive mentality. So do you see now how they were trying to indoctrinate us into this beehive mentality today? And it's happening. Look at how many people believe the lies and reject the truth because of the same thing. And so these Borgs, they call them Borgs, short for cyborgs, because they're no longer human, they are now machine. And we see this happening today. We know that Musk guy is wanting to put a chip in people's brain. We already know that the toxon will be the wiring, so to speak. And now comes the chip to help control the person. Now you are fully assimilated. And now you will have only one thought. And the strange thing about these Borgs in Star Trek, right? That if one of them stepped out of line and dared to think any other thought other than what the others are thinking, he will be quickly regathered and reassimilated. his hard drive wiped clean, and re-upload it again. And they will know when someone is having a stray thought because they can hear each other thinking or each other's thoughts. And this is what they were programming us back in the day. And this is what they're doing today. They were programming and desensitizing us to what they were planning for us. And now it is coming to pass. Okay. Just like the 12 gates, which will help to determine where the tribes will own their properties or suburbs outside the holy city, the gate will also help to show where each tribe will reside in their allotted places inside the holy city. Each tribe with its cities will be located next to its gate of its namesake. So you have the gate for Yahawada, which is Judah, and inside the gate, it would lead you to all the cities of Yahawada. And outside the gate, outside the main city, which will be New Yarawashalam, you will have the suburbs of Yahawada. This is one of the purposes of the gates, to help show us where we will be living, where our properties are going to lie. All right? Because of the sheer magnitude of people that will be living during this time, that will make up the 12 tribes of Yashraal, there will be much more than one city for each tribe. So when we get, I believe this is in the next slide, when we get to understand how enormous this holy city, New Yarawashalam, is going to be, then you'll understand when I say here that each tribe will have many cities within this city. Now, you can think about it like, or compare it to, say, a city like Toronto in Canada. The city of Toronto in Canada, they have something called municipalities, and these are like sub-cities. Okay? It's going to be the same thing in our city, our holy city. It's going to have sub-cities. And these sub-cities will belong to the 12 tribes. Now, another thing that I want to address is why there are going to be so many people alive at that time. Remember, we are going to be procreating for 1,000 years, and none of us are going to die. We're never going to die after we're regathered. We're not going to be living eternally. And those that have been regathered, we will be one procreating and making children, making a lot of children. And our children will make children for 1,000 years. So imagine, after 1,000 years, how many people will be on this earth. Including, we're not talking now about the Gentiles. We're not even including the resurrected brethren, reaching all the way back to Adam and Hawa. When we include these numbers now, that is going to be one large group of people that will be living on the earth. Once again, much larger than what we have today. We have about 8 billion people living today. It's going to be larger than that. Much larger. And we have 8 billion people living today, and people are dying every day. But babies are being born every day too. Okay? All right. Each tribe with its cities will be located, I said that already, sorry, because of the sheer magnitude, and I read that already as well. Sorry. How many? We will not know until we get there. But based on the facts that our forefathers had cities and suburbs mean common land, open land like meadows, fields, orchards, vineyards, those are the suburbs, okay? And they will have meadows for their cattle, their flocks, and their herds, places for them to graze and eat and live. When they entered into the promised land, So it will be again for us when we possess our lands in our cities in New Yarawashalam. We have to look to our forefathers past to have an idea of how Alahayam allotted their suburbs and their cities. So let's take an example from Ba Madabar, chapter 35, verse 2. Command Habanai ol Yashraal that they give unto Halawai of the inheritance of their possession cities to dwell in, and you shall give also unto Halawai, this is the tribe of Levi, by the way, suburbs for the cities round about them. So not only were they given cities, they were given suburbs. And the cities shall they have to dwell in, and the suburbs of them shall be for their cattle, and for their goods, and for all their beasts. And the suburbs of the cities which you shall give unto Halawai shall reach from the wall of the city and outward 1,000 cubits round about. And you shall measure from outside the city on the east side 2,000 cubits, and on the south side 2,000 cubits, and on the west side 2,000 cubits, and on the north side 2,000 cubits, and the city shall be in the midst. This shall be to them the suburbs of the cities. And among the cities which you shall give unto Halawai there shall be 6 cities for refuge, which you shall appoint for the manslayer, that he may flee there. So Halawai were also given 6 additional cities for the manslayer. Manslayer is someone who accidentally kills someone, and Alahayam had established a law that if something like that should happen, rather than another family, the family of the slain victim, right, will rise up to kill this other person who committed murder by accident, right? Give him an opportunity to live and bring about peace in the land. So you don't have these two families fighting against each other. He committed the crime. It was an accident. He can flee to a city of refuge and remain there for a period of time. And that way, the war between two families could be quenched. The potential war between two families can be quenched. So this is the reason why he appointed 6 cities for refuge. And to them you shall add 42 cities. So Ahalawai had 42 cities plus 6, making it 48 cities. So all the cities which you shall give to Halawai shall be 48 cities. Them shall you give with their suburbs. So when you think about our forefathers living in that time, when they were going into the land of promise, and there were not as mighty a group of people as we will be. And yet they had 42 cities. Halawai had 42 cities. I read somewhere that Aparayam, that's Ephraim, he had about 60 cities. All right. So these were a lot of cities because there were a lot of people. And if there were a lot of people at that time and they were living and dying and going to war and dying and getting, they will become ill and die. Imagine our people that never will die ever again. When we multiply, we live, and our children live, and their children live, and their children's children will be living for all eternity. Can you imagine that? So that's why we will have many more cities than what they had. Okay. By looking at the massive size of the great city of Yarawashalam, it should help us to understand this. The length, breadth, and height of the city is measured as 12,000 furlongs each. So we don't really use furlongs. I've never used furlongs. We use miles. So we're going to calculate it or change it over to miles. So 8 furlongs equal 1 mile. Therefore, 12,000 furlongs will equal 1,500 miles or 1,500 miles. Now, to find the area of this vast city, we have to use some mathematics. 12,000 by 12,000, these are the furlongs, equal 144 million furlongs. And it's funny that we have here 144,000 and even the number 12,000, because we know that the first fruit that is required from each tribe will be 12,000. 12,000 sons. In total, 144,000 that will be that will be given to Alahayam as a debt that was owed. Okay, we discussed that already in previous studies. Sorry. So we see the repetition of certain numbers here. We see the repetition of the number 12,000 and the 144. Instead of 1,000, we have here 144 million. Now, to find the square miles, we have to do the same thing. We have to multiply 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles. And we see that the number is that it equals to 2,250,000 square miles. Now, to have an understanding of how vast this city will be, the landmass closest in measurement is Australia. Australia is 2,969,906 miles, square miles. So our city will be slightly under the size of Australia. All right. The next size beneath Australia was India, which comes in at 1 million and some. So I didn't bother to use India. Australia was the closest in size. So let us remember that this is just the holy city, New Yarawashalam, and not the rest of the earth that will we call Yashwa'al. So we're just looking at the city and not the rest of the earth. We know outside of the city will be the rest of the earth called Yashwa'al, and that's where our suburbs are going to be. Now, each wall was measured to be 144 cubits. You see, we're back to that 144 again, according to the cubits of a man. A cubit is equal to 18 inches, measured from the base of the elbow to the tip of the middle finger of a man. So we have 144 cubits times 18 inches equal 2,592 inches or 216 feet. This will be the height of the wall around the city, as it cannot be the width or its length. The wall will be for beautification, because there's no reason for a wall around the city other than for beautification. There are no more wars to be fought, no more enemies on the earth. So the only thing left is beautification. It will also be a memorial for the 12 tribes and the 12 apostles, because we know the gates in the wall are named after the 12 sons of Yaakov, who became the progenitors of the 12 tribes of Yashrael. And the 12 foundations of the wall are named after the 12 apostles of HaMashayach. So it's for a memorial as well. Beautification and memorial. And the purpose of allocating the 12 tribes of Yashrael their inheritance. So here's another purpose for the wall. It helps to determine where we will be allocated, where we will have our inheritance. Yochanan said a curious thing when he gave us the measurement of the wall. He said that it was according to that of a man, that is, of the angel. Later on, we will see that this angel who spoke to Yochanan was one of our brethren, one of the prophets. We're going to see that later on. Okay. So it wasn't an angel from the heavenly host. It was one of the prophets that came, and he was given the golden reed to measure the city. Let's look at verse 18 of Revelation chapter 21. And the building of the wall of it was of jasper, and the city was pure gold, like unto clear glass. Jasper is an opaque stone that comes in various colors, from brownish red, green, striped, speckled, and almost golden-like. However, the jasper stone in the biblical days were most likely a red, opaque stone with dark red striations, making it a very lovely stone indeed. So can you think of this in your mind? You envision a city that is golden, and then you have red on the outside, and then you have the 12 colors of those stones as the foundations for the wall, plus the pearl. We're going to see all this later on. The pearl that is going to be the gates. So you have that pearl-like color for the gates. You have the 12 different colors for the foundations. Then you have this red wall with dark red striations. And it's a very smooth stone at that. It is not rough. It is smooth and glossy. And all this would be like a backdrop for, well, actually, the city would be the backdrop for the wall if you're on the outside of the wall. But when you're inside, it would just help to make the city absolutely spectacular, beautiful. Note that this is the main part of the wall, because we know that this wall will have 4 foundations. So when the foundations, the 12 foundation is completed, then from that point upward to wherever the wall ends will be this jasper stone. Red, and it's not a bright red, it's like a dark red, but not too dark. But then you have the darker red striations flowing through it. And sometimes I saw some stones that had even like a iridescent white line flowing through the stone as well. It could have that. Oh, yeah. Yochanan described the city with its streets to be like pure gold, yet transparent like glass. What Yochanan described to the best of his ability was the unusual material that the streets and the city itself will be made of. The closest thing that he could compare this building material to was gold and glass combined. Gold is a precious metal that is opaque, while glass is transparent. Pure gold is a brilliant, rich yellow in color, but not just yellow, but golden. Yochanan was witnessing a building material unknown to him and even us today. He wanted us to understand by using the qualities of both elements combined to describe the appearance of the holy city. The color of gold is beautiful, while if it is transparent at the same time will look like tainted glass. Reflective, okay? That will appear golden yet still transparent. You know, sometimes when people have their cars, they can taint the car, the windows of their cars, and even the windshield. You can take it to the body shop and get them to paint it, tint it. So you have tainted glass. So it's the same thing with the city. It's going to have a building material that will look like glass, but it's not glass. All right, it's not glass, but it will look like glass. It has that shiny, reflective surface, and yet at the same time, it's transparent. It is very difficult for us today to imagine a city of gold, seamless and transparent at that. And I said seamless because it's not going to be made of bricks that look like glass and golden. No, it's a seamless material because this is coming from Alahayam. He has created this city. No one had built this city. Okay. It will truly be a sight to behold when we get there. Although Yarawashalam did not speak of any foliage in the holy city, there will be fragrant, fruit-bearing trees and other foliage there, including the tree of life. There will be. There must be. Okay? Because New Yarawashalam, we're going to see this later on, spoiler alert, is actually the Garden of Odan upgraded. And we know the Garden of Odan was filled with trees of all kinds, fruit-bearing trees, and caused the garden to be a fragrant place. And so will be the city of Alahayam. Okay? The holy city, it's right here. I thought it was in the next slide. Sorry. The holy city will be the upgraded Garden of Odan, filled with amazing fragrances and beauty. I do this to myself all the time. I thought it was in the next slide. Okay, there it is. The holy city, meaning New Yarawashalam, will be the upgraded Garden of Odan. So the Garden of Odan will be back by we upgraded. It's now called New Yarawashalam. Verses 19 and 20 of Revelation chapter 21. And the foundations of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stones. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third a chalcedony, the fourth an emerald, the fifth sardonyx, the sixth sardius, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth a topaz, the 10th a chrysoprasus, the 11th a jacinth, and the 12th an amethyst. We have looked at these stones in the previous study to see how each stone represents the 12 apostles of HaMashayach. This we gleaned from the scripture when he called his disciples in a particular order. Here's the reason why HaMashayach did this, to help us to put these pieces of the puzzle together to get the big picture. Prophecy is a mystery that only Ruach HaKadosh can reveal. So when we see things like this happening in the scriptures, it is not when HaMashayach named his apostles, his disciples who became his apostles in a particular order, it was for a particular reason. But we don't know that reason until we get to a situation like this. If the 12 foundations the 12 foundations of the wall are named after the 12 apostles, what order will these 12 foundation stones be? Sorry, let me rephrase that. What will be the 12 apostles that will be represented by these 12 foundation stones? We know the order of the stones, but we don't know the order of the disciples, the apostles, until we go to the scripture which speaks of HaMashayach calling his disciples in a particular order. And this is taken from Matthew chapter 10, verses 1 to 4. So this is how we glean and we learn. We get the pieces that are throughout the scriptures and we put them together to get the full picture. We had the full picture, but a lot of our books were destroyed. And some of it was changed. But Alahayam already knew that this was going to happen. So what he did is he left nuggets in the word that if we call on him, he will send Ruach HaKadosh to help us find these nuggets so that when we put it together, we get the big picture. This is how we are learning about New Yarawashalam. This is how we can glean from other prophecies. So the order of the names were taken from Matthew chapter 10, verses 1 to 4. So here's the order. We have Labeas was known by another name called Judas or Yahawada. Judas Iscariot was replaced by Matthias. So here will be the 12 stones and the 12 apostles connected. Like the 12 stones that are representing the 12 apostles. So number 1 is Shamaowan Ka'apa'a, who is Simon Peter. Number 2 stone, the sapphire, represents Anadarai, who is Andrew, the brother of Peter, Ka'apa'a, okay? So we have number 3 stone that represents Yaokab, who is James, the brother of Yawachanan. Number 4, we have the emerald, which represents Yawachanan, the revelator. Okay? And his brother is James, number 3. Number 5 stone is sardonyx, and that represents Payala Payas, who is Philip. And then we have number 6 stone, which is sardius, and it represents Nathanael, who is Bartholomew. And we have number 7 stone, the chrysolite, which represents Tha'awam, who is Thomas. We have the number 8 stone, which represents Matata Yahai, who is Matthew. And then we have number 9, which is the stone called topaz, and it represents Yaokab, who is James, which is another. They say this is the brother of Yarawashalam. That's what they say. Number 10, chrysoprasus. It represents Yahawada, who is Judas, which would be Labeas. Okay, this is Labeas. Number 11th, which the 11th stone, which is jacinth, is representing Shamaowan, who is Simon Zealots. I know in the scriptures they call him Simon the Canaanite, but he was not a Canaanite. His real name was Zealots. That means zealous. And the last stone, which is number 12 stone, is called the amethyst, and it represents Matata Yahai, who is Matthias, and he was the one who replaced Judas Iscariot, the betrayer. Okay? So those are the names of the stones and the names of the apostles that they represent. So now we're going to move on now to verse 21 of Revelation chapter 21. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Every several gate was of 1 pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass. So although it says street, we know it has to be plural. Okay? You can't have just one street in a city. It will seem as if these next few verses are repeated because of the fact that Yochanan mentioned about the 12 foundations of the wall and the 12 gates. He mentioned that before. But what he did was to give us more information so that we have a more detailed description of what he saw. You see, when you look at it the first time, you're looking at the city and you're trying to take in the view. All right? Because it is so magnificent, so spectacular. He's given us in different verses more pieces of the puzzle of the description of the city. All right? That's how he was doing it. But what he did was to give us more information so that we have a more detailed, read that already. The 12 gates will look like pearls, meaning that they will not look like your traditional gate, but it will look like a rounded doorway. I left out the word, that's why it was kind of tricky there. So it will look like a rounded doorway, not made with stones, but smooth with no seams or gaps, like when bricks or stones are put together. You know, when they built the fortresses back in those days, and you see how you have the arches and how they fit the stones together to create that curvature. Well, this is what the gate is going to look like, except it's going to be more rounded than anything else. It's going to look like a giant pearl that's been hollowed out. and it's going to have the color of the pearl, which is white and iridescent, reflecting various colors like pearls do. So it's going to be a seamless stone, a seamless gate. There are no stones fitted together, just like the city, an unusual material. We had discussed in great details the significance of these gates, and of course, they point us to HaMashayach, who is our ultimate gate that we, Yashra'al, must enter through in order to come into the kingdom. The 12 gates also symbolize the way into the congregation of Yashra'al. But this will be pointless unless we also enter through HaMashayach, the son of the living Alahayam. So even if you have the heritage of Abraham and you don't believe in HaMashayach, you're not entering into his city, which means that you're condemned for all eternity. For the offspring of Yashra'al, we will need to enter through the gate who is HaMashayach in order to enter into the kingdom of Alahayam. While the Gentiles now will need to enter the gate, which is HaMashayach, meaning that they need to believe in HaMashayach in order to enter into the congregation of Yashra'al, then to enter into the kingdom of Alahayam. So if you look back at my previous studies of Revelation, when the Gentiles now, when they're judged, the ones that are living, that resisted the evil and persisted to live in righteousness and in holiness, and they remained alive. What happened to them? They remained alive because they believed in HaMashayach and they walked in obedience to his commandments. So their reward now is to receive eternal life and to be given a portion of our inheritance, including our name. So wherever they were serving before they were given their rewards, they become a part of that tribe. And that now allows them to enter into our city as part of our tribe. They're still going to be serving us. But now they have access into the city because they now have our name. They can't enter into the city just by only believing in HaMashayach. They also have to have a name. Just like we can't enter into our own, into his city, the Alahayam city, unless we believe in his son. And I might have had a slip of a tongue right there when it is still our city because he's given it to us, the 12 tribes of Yashra'al. But only if we believe in his son, we enter through the gate of his son. He is the door to Alahayam Yahweh. And if we don't enter through that door, we're not going to make it into the kingdom in the first place. We're not going to be regathered. And if you're not being regathered, you're going to be condemned for all eternity. All right? So this is where we need to understand this, how significant HaMashayach is to not only the 12 tribes of Yashra'al, but to the Gentiles as well, because they need to believe in him as well. The kingdom of Alahayam is where he dwells, wherever his tabernacle is established. So let us consider a promise made by HaMashayach when he lived on the earth as a man. So let's look at this scripture again, because we've looked at it before. But until I did this particular study, I did not get the deeper significance behind this particular precept. So here it is. Yarawashalam chapter 14 verse 2. This is the book of John chapter 14 verse 2. In my Abba's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. How many times have I looked at this scripture? But until Alahayam Yahweh, actually, yes, until Yahweh allows his Ruach to give us the fullness of understanding, give us the knowledge. We're not going to understand it. Sometimes he gives us partial knowledge until we get a little further in our studies, then he gives us the rest of it. And when we think he has given us all, look out, there's going to be more. We're constantly learning because his word is multifaceted. But there, when we allow him to teach us, we don't put a brake into or put on the brakes when he is leading us down a particular road of understanding. We don't put the brakes on. You can't say to him, well, I already know this, so, let me. No, because he is going to give you a deeper meaning, a deeper understanding to this precept. And I was blown away because I had completed this study several times already. I had done the recording several times already. And he will not let me release it. This is at least the fourth time that I'm doing this recording. But he would not let me release it until a few days ago. He brought this scripture to my heart while I was praying. And he gave me the revelation of it. And he said, this is the missing piece to the study that you need to incorporate. Okay? This is how he deals with us. The more we study this precept, the more we gain deeper understanding. HaMashayach was speaking to his disciples, letting them know that he would receive them unto himself, and they will be with him. So the first time we are reading this, it was HaMashayach speaking to his disciples. So this is a scripture of promise. And it has at least 4 fulfillments attached to it. And the first one was with his disciples. They were his witnesses. They became his apostles. So let's read on. Matthew chapter 19, verse 28. Verily I say unto you, that you who have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit on the throne of his glory, you also shall sit upon 12 stones, judging the 12 tribes of Yashra'al. And has that come to pass? Well, yes, it has. The 24 elders in heaven, 12 of them are his apostles, and 12 of them are the 12 sons of Yaokab. So they're sitting on the thrones right now with him in his throne room. As HaMashayach had promised his disciples, so this promise was fulfilled, as we know that his 12 apostles are the 12 elders in heaven, sitting on thrones where he is. So now the next fulfillment of this promise is due any day now. So this is number 2 fulfillment. When the southern kingdom will be regathered in the chariots, we will dwell in third heaven, where the Garden of Eden is located. It is also called the kingdom of heaven. So let's look at Matthew chapter 29, verse 30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the 4 winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So here he is coming for his saints, the southern kingdom. All right? This is the southern kingdom that Alahayam, Alahayam, HaMashayach is going to come for his people. This is the second fulfillment of this promise where he is going to regather us and bring us unto him so that we will dwell where he is. Wherever his tabernacle is, that's where he is. And his tabernacle is in the Garden of Eden. Adam saw it. Adam and Hawa saw it. And we are going to third heaven where the Garden of Eden is. That's where we're going to live. All right? So now we're going to look at the third fulfillment of this promise, which will be the second return of HaMashayach to the earth with his saints. This is Revelation chapter 19, when he will establish his kingdom here on the earth. This will start with the Mount of Olives transforming into Mount Shalawam, and the tabernacle will be established on this mountain. It will be here when the two kingdoms, the northern and the southern kingdoms, will be made into one kingdom. The millennial reign of HaMashayach will begin, and we, the 12 tribes of Yashrael, will be dwelling in the presence of HaMashayach and Alahayam Yahweh. This will be the time when we will cleanse ourselves in the river of water and be purged of our sin nature. We will eat of the tree of life and receive eternal life, and we will live forevermore. And we will dwell forevermore in his presence from this point onward. Well, actually, the southern kingdom, from the time they are regathered, the northern kingdom, when they are regathered for the second Exodus. But here we are together as one kingdom, and together we are dwelling in our land as 12 tribes. Okay? And Yahweh, his tabernacle, will be sitting upon Mount Shalawam, and we, the 12 tribes, will be dwelling around this mountain. All right? We will have our lands around this mountain. Okay. Let's read on. The fourth fulfillment of the promise will be the renewal of the heavens, the earth, and new Yarawashalam, where the Gentiles will be welcomed into the congregation of Yashrael. So we know the first fulfillment were for the apostles. The second fulfillment were for the southern kingdom when they were regathered. The third fulfillment was when the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom combined to become one kingdom, and we will be dwelling for 1,000 years together with HaMashayach and Alahayam Yahweh in our midst. And then the fourth fulfillment, the last fulfillment, will be when the Gentiles now will come in with us in the new Yarawashalam. All right? And enjoy their inheritance with us. It will be at this point of time. Okay, let me read over the fourth fulfillment. The fourth fulfillment of the promise will be at the renewal of the heavens, the earth, and new Yarawashalam, where the Gentiles will be welcomed into the congregation of Yashrael. So now they're going to enjoy this fulfillment of this promise as well. They're going to enjoy this promise that was given to us. And that promise is we will be where he is. Now, don't get twisted in our minds about the word mansions and the word in my Father's house. What is the Father's house? The Father's house is his tabernacle. Wherever his tabernacle is situated, HaMashayach said he will make dwelling places. That's what the mansions are. We're not talking about those multi-mansions that you see these rich people of this earth living in. No, he's not talking about that. He's talking about dwelling places. All right? Dwelling places. So in his presence, wherever he has established his tabernacle, he will have dwelling places for his people. All right? So it will be at this time when the promise will be completed. So let's move on now to Revelation chapter 21, verses 22 and 23. And I saw no temple therein, for Yahweh Alahayam Shaddai and the Lamb are the temple of it. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of Alahayam did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. Alahayam Yahweh and Yarawashalam will be our temple in the holy city, and their glory will be the light that will shine from there to light the entire earth. Never again will there be darkness upon the earth. Therefore, there will be no need of the sun, or no need for the sun, moon, or stars ever again. Ever again. We too will reflect the glory of Alahayam throughout the earth. So let's look at Yeshaya chapter 60, verse 19. The sun shall no more be your light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto you. But Yahweh shall be unto you an everlasting light, and Alahayach, meaning your Alahayam, your glory. Your sun shall no more go down, neither shall your moon withdraw itself. For Yahweh shall be your everlasting light, and the days of your mourning shall be ended. So even here, Yeshua is giving us an idea, and it's reflecting and confirming what John is saying, that there'll be no more light by day, nor there'll be no need for the sun or the moon to give light or brightness. Okay? Because Yahweh will be our everlasting light. And the days of our mourning will come to an end. Or the days of our mourning will come to an end when we're regathered. But what he is expressing here also is that perpetual day that we will all be living in. Because Alahayam is going to destroy the sun, moon, and stars. He will have no more need for them. And we looked at that in a previous study of Revelation. So let's look at Matthew chapter 24, verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. And we know that this is the 3 days of darkness that will occur. And the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. So what's going to happen after the sun and the moon goes dark? The heavens are going to start to shake. Why? Because HaMashayach is coming. And when the heavens begin to shake, it will cause the stars to fall from heaven. All right? Let's look at verse 30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, and that great glory will be light. Remember, 3 days of darkness is going to is going to be before the coming of HaMashayach in his great power and in his power and great glory. He's coming in the clouds. This is not his second return. This is him coming in the clouds with his great glory, meaning his great light, to regather his people, the 2.5 tribes, the southern kingdom, in chariots of fire. So just this is just to show you that Alahayam and HaMashayach, when they come in their glory, there's no need for the sun, moon, or stars. And there's this particular time in Matthew chapter 24, the regathering of the southern kingdom. He's going to show the world not only himself, but his power and his great glory. All right? It's going to cause people to drop dead from the sheer fright of it all. Well, the fact that they're going to see that he's a Negro, that's going to shock a lot of these Caucasian people out there that hating on us. A lot of them out there that think Jesus is their God. Well, it is their God. Blonde hair and blue eye. But when they look and see the face of HaMashayach and see that he's a Negro through and through, a lot of them are going to fall dead if the 3 days of darkness hadn't already killed them. In order to experience this glorious time in the holy city, we must first dwell in the light while we are here living on the earth. I know many of our people, they want to go home. But the reason why the Father is tarrying is because he wants us to get our house in order. We need to get our house in order because once the curtain comes down for the southern kingdom, there's no recourse for us to get into the kingdom. Either you make it in or you don't. So what he wants us to realize is that in order to be regathered by HaMashayach, we got to be walking in the light right now. We have to be living in the light and walking in the light. Let's look at Yarawashalam chapter 8 verse 12. Then spoke Yarawashalam again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that follows me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. So you want to live and worship Alahayam without the sun. You don't believe in the sun. You don't believe in the New Testament. I know there are a lot of false teachings that are popping up left, right, and center like a bad case of acne. There's some people out there talking about that the book of Revelation is a false book. It's false doctrine. Some people go as far as say, well, the whole New Testament is false doctrine. Some say, well, we don't need the Old Testament. We only adhere to the New. Then there's some people like, no, we're not even going to believe in HaMashayach because he's a Roman plant. The whole book of Revelation, the whole section of the New Testament, they call it a Roman plant. Well, you see, they have to do that because if you say that you don't believe in HaMashayach, and you go now and you read the New Testament, ignoring Paul's epistles, because I do not subscribe to Paul's epistles. But if you read the Gospels and you read the other books in the New Testament, ignoring Paul's epistles, you cannot justify why you don't believe in HaMashayach. You can't justify it. So the only way that you can adhere to your deception is to throw the baby with the bathwater. He is spoken of throughout the New Testament. So let's throw that out. He is hinted at in the Old Testament, but we can ignore those particular scriptures. So much deception on the rise, and especially amongst our brethren. I don't really care about the Gentiles out there. They're on their own. But our brethren, we're in the last hour. And right now, we're denying our one way into the kingdom. And that's through HaMashayach, the Son of the living Alahayam. Yarawashalam chapter 9 verse 5. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. When he was living here, before he came, the world was in darkness. Our people were suffering under the oppression of the Roman Empire and the Pharisees the religious leaders of our day, of their day. So he came to bring truth in the form of light. In fact, it is light, but it is truth of his word. To bring the people out of darkness and into his marvelous light. To bring knowledge and understanding. To give them hope. That is what he came to do. Yarawashalam chapter 12 verse 34. The people answered him, "We have heard out of the law that Mashiach abides forever. And how say you, the Son of Man must be lifted up?" Who is this Son of Man? You see, they don't even know who he is. He came and he worked the miracles. He spoke with great authority, and yet they still did not recognize him because they were still in darkness. When you are in ignorance and you resist the light, the darkness that you were once in, that is called Hashak, is transformed into evil darkness because you've rejected the light. So you're no longer ignorant of the truth. You're now evil and wicked before Alahayam. We're all born ignorant of the truth until the light is revealed to us. And now we have a choice. Either we receive the light and move out of this darkness, this ignorance, and into knowledge, or we continue on in ignorance and become a rebel and be rejected by Alahayam. Verse 35. Then Yarawashalam said unto them, "Yet a little while is the light with you." He's speaking of himself. "Walk while you have the light, lest darkness come upon you. For he that walks in darkness knows not where he goes. While you have light, believe in the light, that you may be the children of light." These things spoke Yarawashalam and departed, and did hide himself from them. He had to hide himself from them. Why? Because they were in darkness. And they didn't want to receive him. They didn't want to receive his word. They didn't want to receive truth. That's why they asked that question, who is the Son of Man? Let's drop down to verse 44 of the same chapter 12. Yarawashalam cried and said, "He that believes on me, believes not on me, but on him who sent me. I am come a light into the world, that whosoever believes on me should not abide in darkness." Darkness is not coming into the kingdom. So anyone who is harboring darkness in their lives is not going to make it into the kingdom. All right? They're not. Alahayam has given us everything that we need to be able to get rid of the darkness within. It starts with believing in his Son. And yes, he comes in, he sends his Ruach HaKadosh to do the processing. He prunes. And he removes, but surgically, the roots of darkness, so that it does not spring again. It doesn't spring up into weeds again in our lives. So the more we study, the more we learn, the more we pray, the more we worship him, the more we resist evil, is the more he is able to rid us of the darkness within. Until we become children of light. And this is speaking spiritually, because the next thing that is coming, it is glory when the 3 days of darkness comes. And if you're walking as a child of the light, then you are a prime candidate for his glory to enter into your home, to comfort you for the 3 days of darkness, during the 3 days of darkness. You wouldn't even know that there's darkness outside. And you will have no need to go out because you will know of the glory within. And He's going to take us through a time of great worship. And you're in such awesome worship, spending all this time worshiping, you don't even know 3 days have already gone by. Until you hear that trumpet loud and long. And He speaks to you and says, time to go home. You will know automatically what He's speaking of because He's downloading in our spirit throughout those 3 days. While we're dwelling in His glory, He's downloading in us. So we're not caught by surprise. And we're ready. And those 3 days will be 3 days that He's cleansing us, completing the process. It will be completed in those 3 days. Whatever little grains of darkness that need to be plucked out will be completed. All right. When HaMashayach came the first time to the earth, He came to be the light to lead His people, all who will believe in Him, away from darkness and to dwell in His marvelous light. This is the only way for us to be called the children of light. This is our only way to defeat the darkness within that we all were born with. We're all born with darkness. It's what you do with it. It's who you follow, who you worship. If you worship Alahayam, He'll help you get rid of that darkness. But if you worship pagan gods, your darkness is going to increase. It's going to become like a cancer to engulf you until you're no more. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 9. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people. This is who we are. That you should show forth the praises of Him who have called you out of darkness into His marvelous light. When we are walking in His marvelous light, it's because we are a royal priesthood. We are chosen. We're the generation that is going to be chosen. So we are the generation right now. But now comes who are the chosen. Who will be chosen? Okay. What HaMashayach did the very first time in bringing His light was to bring truth into the world as we were dead in our sins and led astray due to deception. Only our chance of entering into the kingdom of Alahayam is through, let me read that again. Our only chance of entering into the kingdom of heaven is through the initial work and ministry of HaMashayach. He came to set the captives free. He came to open the eyes of the blind and the ears of the deaf. He came to bring truth. And the only way to the Father is through Him. He had left His disciples, who became His apostles, to carry on with His work on the earth. And through them, His apostles, speaking of, we are further taught the truth which clarifies all the deception, apostasy, heresy, and lies that are out there to keep us away from the truth, which is the light, keeping us away from living in the light of new Yarawashalam. So if we are caught up in darkness, we're doomed for destruction. We're not making it into the kingdom. All right. Revelation chapter 21, verse 24. And the nations of them who are saved shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it. So the nations here are speaking of the 12 tribes of Yashraal. We're the only people left on the earth. All right? Even the Gentiles are called by our name, the names of the 12 tribes. So we're speaking of the 12 tribes of Yashraal, who will be the ones who will enjoy the light of Alahayam. We all will be enjoying his light. We will be forevermore celebrating our great deliverances, starting from the southern kingdom, being regathered by the chariots of fire, and the northern kingdom being led out of the lands of their captivity and into the second Exodus. We all will now be walking in pure light, the glory of Alahayam being his children of light. The leaders of the tribes, called kings, will, along with all the other people, shine with the glory of Alahayam. However, the leaders or kings will be the ones who were the original regathered ones, the ones who were redeemed from the very beginning. I am speaking of those who were of the southern kingdom that were regathered by the chariots, and the northern kingdom who went into the second Exodus. So the redeemed ones, the regathered redeemed ones, will become the kings. And this is inclusive of the women too. All right? Don't worry that he used the word kings. He's speaking of leaders. We will become the leadership on the earth. These men and women of the regathered 12 tribes of Yashraal, and not inclusive of the Gentiles who are now named among us, will be the ones in leadership over their offspring, the angels, and of course the reformed Gentiles. So we know we are going to be procreating for the 1,000 years, and we'll have children, and our children will have children, so we will be their leaders. All right? We, the regathered ones, had endured to the end, which will grant us the status of being leaders over those who will be born in the kingdom during the 1,000 years. We have been alive for a long time. And not only have we been alive for a long time, but we also experience a lot in those years that we have been alive before we were regathered. And it's because we persisted and resisted evil, we persisted to live righteously, and we resisted the evil, that we were regathered. So that will grant us status as leaders. Everyone that will be regathered will become a leader. Don't forget, it's going to be billions of our people on the earth. Billions. All right? And the regathered ones, they're not going to be, well, I can't tell you how many there will be, but we are a remnant. But I'm not talking about 50 or 60 or 100 or 1,000. We don't know how many of the regathered ones will be. Okay. But this is going to be the structure of the government that will be upon the earth. Okay. Those born in the kingdom will not know what we had to endure, except we tell them about it as part of our memorial when we celebrate our feast days. Not bringing into remembrance the horrors that we had endured, but only the great deliverances that we experienced. And this will bring glory and honor unto Alahayam. This will cause us to shine brighter than the sun because of our perseverance in walking in righteousness and in holiness during the darkest moments of our lives. Nevertheless, our offspring will still have elevated status over the Gentiles, who are now called by our tribal names, and over the angels. They'll have status over the angels, as we will all be made higher than the angels. We know that when Adam and Hawa were first created, the angels trembled before them, but when Adam and Hawa sinned, Now Adam and Hawa trembled before the angels. So the reason why the angels trembled before Adam and Hawa is because they were created in the image of Alahayam Yahweh. And they were carrying his light. So the angels trembled when they looked upon Adam and Hawa. But after they sinned, when Adam and Hawa sinned, when they transgressed the one commandment, the light that was the glory of Alahayam was shut off, and they were made lower than the angels. And now they were trembling before the angels. And that's how we are today. When any of our prophets saw the angels, what happened to them? They did not fall over as dead. They did not pass out. Yes, because they were afraid. Okay. Psalm 8, verse 4. What is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you visit him? For you have made him a little lower than the angels, and have crowned him with glory and honor. You made him to have dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under his feet. The prophet Dawud was prophesying about HaMashayach and his status when he would come on the earth as a man for the first time. And just as the status of HaMashayach, who was a man and was made lower than the angels, so were we all made lower than the angels due to the transgression of Adam and Hawa. However, this will now be forever changed, as we will be promoted in our garments of light, which will mean that we will be elevated to be higher than the angels, and we will be promoted not with just one garment of light, but our garment of light will be upgraded. Okay? The light that Lucifer lost, we will have. And the light that Adam and Hawa lost, we will also have. So we'll have an upgraded garment. It's going to be doubly anointed. We must not forget our resurrected brethren and their roles as elders when they come. They will remain in their roles even after we, the redeemed ones, are fully transformed to be like angels, like they are, after the 1,000-year reign of HaMashayach. So they will remain as our elders. All right? Matthew chapter 22, verse 30. For in the resurrection, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of Alahayam in heaven. So here we know that when our brethren are resurrected to life, they are not going to be marrying and given in marriage. They're not going to be procreating, but they will be like the angels. Luke chapter 20, verse 34. And Yarawashalam answering said unto them, the children of this world marry, and are given in marriage. But they who shall be accounted worthy to obtain that world and the resurrection from the dead, neither marry nor are given in marriage, neither can they die any more. For they are equal, they are like unto the angels, and are the children of Alahayam, being the children of the resurrection. So when you die and you're resurrected to life, that part of your life where you have the desire to marry, to be given in marriage, to have children, will be gone. You're now fully transformed to be like the angels. All right? Whereas the regathered ones, the 2.5 tribes, the southern kingdom, and the 9.5 tribes, the northern kingdom, when they're regathered, they will be marrying and giving in marriage. That is going to be our role in the kingdom, to multiply our numbers, to cause our numbers to become like the sand on the seashore and the stars in heaven. That was the promise of Alahayam to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and it has not been fulfilled yet. Okay? It has not been fulfilled yet. It will be fulfilled starting the millennial reign of HaMashayach. He's regathering a remnant, but the remnant will multiply to become a multitude, a great multitude. Our resurrected brethren will be like the angels, but they will not be angels, but made higher than the angels. Let us not become confused by the word equal, as it is only signifying to us the angelic qualities that our resurrected brethren will have. And like us, the redeemed, regathered ones, they too will have their awesome testimonies of their deliverances to share with all of us during our times of festivities. They too will bring honor and glory unto Alahayam. We will hear accounts after accounts, testimonies after testimonies of all our great deliverances by Alahayam. What a time that will be to remember without the pain and sorrows attached to those memories. We're sitting together during our times of festivities and we're giving accounts and testimonies of things that we've gone through and how Alahayam delivered us. What a time that will be. And what about the prophets that prophesy the promises, that prophesy the prophecy, obviously they prophesied the prophecy, that prophesied about the end times, that prophesied about varying things that happened throughout the ages. Then to hear those that have lived through those times give their testimonies and how they adhere to the prophecy spoken by the prophet. That prophet, Yasha'oya, Jeremiah, Yahazakaal, those prophets, Habakkuk, all those ones. To hear how their prophecies were such an influence on our lives. Not to mention the 12 apostles. To hear how influential they were in our lives. And all of it will give glory to Alahayam Yahweh, because He was the one who raised them up. He was the one who spoke through them. He was the one who did miracles through them. And what He did through them reached us in the future compared where they were. And here we are today. Have reached us. The word of Alahayam spoken through the mouths of His servants have reached us today. This is the power of Alahayam. This is His might. And He will receive the glory that is due to Him. When all of us sit down together and we reminisce, we'll start singing songs of praises. We'll start worshiping, laying our crowns before His feet. What a glorious time that will be. All right, let's look now at Revelation chapter 21, verses 25 and 26. We're looking forward to those times. All right. And the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, for there shall be no night there. And they shall bring glory and honor of the nations into it. He's talking about the gates of the wall of the city. Now the gates of our holy city will never be shut, as there will only be righteousness and holiness flowing upon the earth. The entire earth will be holiness and righteousness. This will be the perpetual everlasting day that will be upon this earth. The glory of Alahayam and HaMashayach will shine from their holy city to cover the entire earth. And this earth will never again see darkness of any kind. And as we have discussed before, There will be a lot of testimonies and historical accounts of deliverances from throughout the ages, spoken from many different eras of our brethren, not forgetting us, the redeemed, as well. The prophet Yeshua of old prophesied about these coming days. Imagine him recounting those prophecies along with the actual accounts of those stories that we will give. Let's look at Yeshua chapter 60, verse 41. And we've looked at this before, but we're going to read it again. Therefore your gates shall be open continually, they shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto you the forces of the Gentiles, that their kings may be brought. So the Gentiles, they're going to have their leadership as well. But their leadership will be under us. Okay, so their kings is speaking of their leaders. And they take their instructions from us. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve you shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. So they're all gone. They're all gone. Violence shall no more be heard in your land, wasting nor destruction within your borders, but you shall call your walls salvation and your gates praise. This is how we're going to be living. We're going to remember how he saved us, and we're going to give him praise. The sun shall no more be your light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto you, but Yahweh shall be unto you an everlasting light, and Alahayam your glory. Your sun shall no more go down, neither shall your moon withdraw itself, for Yahweh shall be your everlasting light, and the days of your mourning shall be ended. Your people also shall be all righteous. They shall inherit the land forever, the branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. You see, Alahayam took a grape out of the bunch and he planted himself a vineyard. Yes, he had to prune it, he had to cut back a lot of it, but the remnant, he caused the remnant to blossom again to be his vineyard, the work of his hands. Forevermore, Alahayam Yahweh will be glorified by our testimonies, and his great name will be honored by our accounts of his mighty deliverances that he had wrought on our behalf. So let's look at the final verse of Revelation chapter 21. This is verse 27. Revelation chapter 21, verse 27. And there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defiles, neither whatsoever works abomination or makes a lie, but they who are written in the Lamb's book of life. And he's speaking about his city. Nothing evil can ever enter into his city because it's all destroyed. HaMashayach have instructed us on how to enter into the kingdom of Alahayam by entering in the straight gate and the narrow way. He also instructed us that he is that straight gate, the door through which everyone who wants eternal life must enter. Now let us look at more instructions of HaMashayach to ensure that we all remain in his book of life and not be blotted out. So let's start with Matthew chapter 19, verse 27. Then answered Ka'apa'a, who is Peter, and said unto him, Behold, we have forsaken all and followed you. What shall we have thereof, therefore? And Yarawashalam said unto them, Verily I say unto you, that you who have followed me in the regeneration, which is the renewal, when the Son of Man shall sit on the throne of his glory, you also shall sit upon the 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Yashwa'al. We looked at this before. And everyone that have forsaken houses, or brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands, for my name's sake, shall inherit everlasting life. So here we are. Hamashiach is giving us instruction on how we will enter into the kingdom. We have to forsake all. You see, we are a people that love to put things and people, other people, above Him. You get married, and suddenly your spouse, whatever they say to you, trumps whatever Alahayam is saying to you. You want to listen to them more than you listen to Him. You have children, and suddenly your children now become the focus of your attention and your worship. I know a lot of people that worship their children. Their children become their idols. Go and you get a nice job, making good money. Your job becomes your idol. You go and you get a mortgage, and suddenly now you have a house. Your house becomes your idol. Your brethren, you come into the knowledge of who you are. And because your family dissuade you from following this way, they tell you you're foolish if you believe in this Hebrew Israelite nonsense. Or if you think that you are of Abraham, and I use Hebrew Israelite, even though I don't like using it, but, and you decide, okay, to keep peace, I'm going to go with my brethren, go back to the church, the Christian church. Instead of forsaking your brethren, instead of forsaking your family members, instead of forsaking your career, you want to adhere to all these things because these things become your idol, your point, your focus. And they're placed higher than Alahayam. It's not easy for someone to walk away from a really good job, a great career. Walk away from family, walk away from friends that are trying to dissuade you, derail you from the path that you've started on. It takes a lot of strength to walk away. I'm not saying for you to block them, to boycott them. You still see them, hear from them, they call you, say hi, bye, that's it. But you're not taking their advice to go in the path that they want you on, which is the path that they're on. That's different. But sometimes it comes to a point where you're going to have to, steer far away from these people because they're a thorn in your side. And all they're doing is oppressing you with their false doctrines. And the only way that you can have peace is like, okay, I need to cut this off. I need to sever this relationship. How about if you're in a relationship with a man or, well, let's just say a spouse, and they're trying to derail you, causing you to choose between them and the Most High. What are you going to do? You're going to say, well, marriage is sacred. Alahayam is not going to want me to forsake my spouse. That's wrong. If she or he is going to be called into the kingdom, it would be it would be because Alahayam have drawn them in. But when you choose them over him, he can't do anything to help them. He can't do anything because you now have a new idol. It's called your spouse. So he just steps back and let you make your own decision. You have to forsake all, not some, not most, all. And it takes someone who truly loves him to do this. Peter asked a very good question. We have forsaken all and followed you. What shall we have thereof? What is in store for us? Everlasting life. And more than that, they get to sit on the throne, in the throne room, judging the 12 tribes of Yashra'al. That's what they got. Let's look at Yarawashalam chapter 10 verse 27. The book of John chapter 10 verse 27. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish. Neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Abba, who gave them to me, is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Abba's hand. So when you are chosen by him, there's nothing the devils can do to pluck you out of his hand. You can't even jump out of his hand. That's why sometimes you feel like, okay, I can't go on. And then he comes and he whispers a word and you just spring up and you're ready to move on. You're ready to carry on. Why? Because it's in you. It's in us. The ones that he has chosen, the ones that he has selected. It's in us to follow him no matter what. No matter who says what to you, it's in us to keep following him. We can't do anything else but follow him and believe in him. Revelation chapter 3 verse 5. And this is to the assembly in Sardis. He that overcomes, the same shall be clothed in white raiment. And I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Abba and before his angels. There's always a possibility for our names to be blotted out, but the ones who are chosen, no. No. We're chosen. We're in his hand. We cannot be plucked out. But to get to be in his hand, where we cannot be plucked out, it comes down to us believing in HaMashayach. Once we have solidified that fact in our hearts and in our minds, the devil can't pluck us out of his hand. And that's why there are some sitting on the fence, watching and waiting to see which way the tide is going to turn, and then hopefully they can reach there in time. But the Father is not desperate for people in his kingdom, because he can take 2 people and cause them to multiply. He can raise up the stones to worship him. But because of his promise that he made to our forefathers, he is waiting to see who will obey him and walk in his ways. He is waiting. He is not ready yet to close the curtains, but it's closing very soon. So that at the end of the day, no one can say, you did not give me enough time to make my choice. You did not give me enough time to learn about you. We had thousands of years. Well, what I should say, really, because we were not alive for thousands of years. We had information from thousands of years ago to help us make up our minds. We have Ruach HaKadosh to help us make up our minds. But if you reject the text, you're going to reject his Ruach HaKadosh, his Ruach Kadash. It is a slippery slope. And many of our brethren are slipping and sliding all the way to the lake of fire. Their names are going to be blotted out because they're the ones that are not in the palm of his hand. But they can get there if they repent and if they believe in HaMashayach. They can get there. But many will not choose to go there because of pride. Because they want to do things their way. Let's look at Revelation chapter 13, verse 8. This is the beast called the New World Order that will war against the northern kingdom when they are awakened. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So this has to do with the Gentiles, because the southern kingdom is gone. The northern kingdom, the northern kingdom now will be warring against the New World Order. And actually, I should say, because I know some of our northern kingdom brethren, they will side with the beast empire called the New World Order, because they're going to offer them rewards for doing so. But those are the ones whose names are not written in the Lamb's Book of Life, and they're not really of our people anyway. They're still Gentiles. When we are awakened, we are no longer Gentiles because we have chosen to worship Alahayam, Yahweh. So even if there are the northern kingdom that will side with the NWO beast empire, and this is number 7, by the way, they're still Gentiles. So they're not part of our congregation anyway. So yes, they're still Gentiles. So their names are going to be blotted out of the Lamb's Book of Life. And the reason why they sided with the NWO, let me change that. The reason why they will side with the NWO, the New World Order, is because they're blotted out of the Lamb's Book of Life. They were not selected. They were not chosen. All right? So once you're not chosen, even speaking of the Gentiles, all right? Even speaking of the Gentiles, if the Gentiles are not chosen by Alahayam, they're going to be blotted. They're doomed for destruction. Their names are going to be blotted out. All right? So the names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life, and there's some that haven't even made it into the Lamb's Book of Life. But he wrote the names in initially, but because they rejected him, they rejected his Ruach, so he blots the name out. They become an abomination to him. There are certain things that we do that will cause us to become an instant abomination. For example, taking the toxon. Immediately your names are blotted out of the Lamb's Book of Life. There's no chance for you coming back. There's no recourse after that. But our names were written in the Lamb's Book of Life even while we were yet still sinners. Because this is his promise that he will give us a chance to make things right before him. But there comes a time when we do the abominable things, and he said, that's it. We blaspheme his Ruach Kadash. That's it. Name blotted out of his lamb, out of the Lamb's book of life. All the other abominations that he said not to do, immediately you're wiped out of the book. All right? And then there's some, eventually the names are written out, blotted out, because they keep resisting him. They keep resisting his truth. They keep resisting his light. So he says, enough is enough. I've given you enough rope to hang yourself, and you just hung yourself. So I'm just going to blot your name out of the Lamb's book of life. This is some serious business here. Being born of one of the 12 tribes does not guarantee that our names are going to remain written in the Lamb's book of life. It is only when we believe in HaMashayach and we walk in his ways that we are guaranteed eternal life. As long as we steer the course. All right. Revelation chapter 17, verse 8. Let me see if I finish Revelation 13, whose names are not written in the Lamb's book of life, slain from the foundation of the world. So Revelation chapter 17, verse 8, and this is Azazel, the beast or the Satan for the NWO, beast empire number 8 now. The beast which that you saw was and is not and shall go, into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So these are the ones that are going to worship Azazel. And they're going to be in awe. And they're going to offer their worship to him. Why? Because their names were not written in the Lamb's book of life from the very beginning. So there are some people whose names were never written in the Lamb's book of life. And that's why they are so wicked. That's why the enemy has a field time with them, a field day with them. Can do whatever he wants to do with them, and they'll say, yes, sir. They have no conscience. They have no sense of empathy, sympathy, nothing. They're just plain old wicked. Because their names were never written in the Lamb's book of life to begin with. Then you have the ones, their names are written in the Lamb's book of life and were blotted out because of the abominations. Immediately they're blotted out. Taking the toxin, your name is blotted out. And then there's some, eventually, Alahayam says enough is enough. I'm going to blot your name out because you have rejected me enough times now. You've rejected my truth. You rejected my light enough times. That's it. Finished. Done. Blot your name out. Okay. Revelation chapter 20, verse 12. And this is the great white throne judgment. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before Alahayam. And the books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So this great throne judgment, this will be the judgment for the dead of the Gentiles. Because remember, our brethren that had died were resurrected to life at the beginning of the 1,000-year reign of HaMashayach. And so, the only people left at this point of time for the great white throne judgment will be the dead of the Gentiles, to see which of them will come back to life. This will be the second resurrection to life. And if their names were not found in the book of life, then they will be cast into the lake of fire, straight into the lake of fire. Revelation chapter 21, verse 7. He that overcomes shall inherit all things, and I will be his Alahayam, and he shall be my son. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake of fire. Their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. So these are the ones that he's saying that will make it into the fire. They're murderers, they're abominable, they're unbelieving, they're fearful. You might think, well, why would he cast the fearful people in? They're just fearful because of, danger and what have you. No, he's not talking about that. He is talking about those people that rather come to him to get comfort, to get counsel. You succumb to the terror, the fears. Remember what happened a few years ago when this thing came on the scene that caused the whole world to lock down? What happened to people? They became fearful enough that they went and took the toxin. Family members, friends, you talk to them, you show them the proof that this thing is not real. Don't take it. It's going to make you sick, and on top of that, it's going to cause you to perish, because it is part of the beast, the mark of the beast. It is the mark of the beast. It's just that the fullness of it has not been rolled out yet. But this is the mark of the beast. Anything that changes you on the inside cannot be anything else. And this is the reason why Alahayam says enough is enough. Because it changes who you were, it changes who you are, how you were created by me. Yes, we are all marred because of sin. But when you go now, you take something that changes you on a D-N-A- level and transform you from what you were created to be into something else, a hybrid being, you're doomed for destruction. Because that's what it does. So, because of fear of losing your job, fear of catching something that can possibly kill you, although it was impossible to be killed by an imaginary thing. So you go through fear. You believe the lies and you took the toxin. But that's not the only thing that causes people to fear. People fear and do crazy things because they don't believe. When you don't believe, you live in fear. When you have no faith, you become fearful and you do exactly the opposite of what the Most High would tell you to do. You can't be faithful and unbelieving, and you can't be believing and become fearful. No, the two don't go together. That's why he has here fearful and unbelieving, because these people lack faith and they lack believing in him. Then you have the murderers and the whoremongers and the sorcerers. Here is not just about witchcraft. We're talking about pharmakia as well. Pharmakia. And idolaters and all liars. So these are the ones, if you don't learn to overcome these things, you're going to end up in the lake of fire. Revelation chapter 22, verse 14. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. For outside are dogs. He's not talking about literal dogs. He's talking about people that behave like dogs, that have become like dogs. You know, dogs are unclean animals. They'll eat their own vomit. They'll eat their own young. They're unclean. and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters and whosoever loves and makes a lie, because Satan is the father of lies. Drop down to verse 9. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy, Alahayam shall take away his part out of the book of life and out of the holy city. So you're doomed for destruction. So I'm not going to go too deeply into Revelation chapter 22 because that's coming up next, and from the things which are written in this book. So I'm going to address this particular verse when we get to it in the next study. Okay? We see by many precepts written in the word of Alahayam how we all will be judged, and what he will judge as righteous and unrighteous. This is not a mystery by any means, but deception and pride will prevent many people, whether our brethren or the Gentiles, from achieving the standards that have been laid out before us, the standards for worship, the standards for living as his people, to live in righteousness and in holiness. We have been given the instructions needed to understand how we ought to be living in this world that is filled with darkness and all manner of evil, especially today, because the world has gotten darker than it was a year ago. It is significantly darker. The word of Alahayam is our light, which will take us to the mark, our higher calling, to be called the children of Alahayam. This is our only way into the kingdom of Alahayam, to ensure that our names are not blotted out of the Lamb's book of life and lose our heavenly inheritance. We gotta walk in the light. We have to remain in the light. And we have to allow him to process us and prune us to get rid of the darkness within. And the only way to get that process to begin is by believing in HaMashayach. I'm going to keep repeating this over and over again because I am so surprised at how many people do not believe in him. And they think that by their own merits they can make it into the kingdom. HaMashayach said that anyone who denies all for his name's sake will receive eternal life. This is the ultimate sacrifice of self that not everyone is able to do. Because if you can sacrifice the things that you love, and when I said sacrifice, I'm not talking about killing, all right? I'm talking about giving up, walking away from the things that you love, the things that your hands have bought. That is a clear sign that you are a good candidate for the kingdom, because you're not beholden to things. You're not beholden to things. You can walk away from them because your heart is not set on things, on people, on popularity, on people's opinion. Your heart is set on Alahayam and him alone. His disciples walked away from their lives because they knew that they had the best with them, and his name is Yarawashalam. His name is Yarawashalam. Now we today must do the same in order to enter through the gates of our holy city, New Yarawashalam. His disciples knew who HaMashayach was. They knew what they were giving up was nothing compared to what they already had. When he walked by Matthew, the tax collector, and he said to him, "Come follow me," Matthew dropped the money box, everything, and started walking, following him. He passed by Peter and Andrew, and they were fishing with their father or mending nets or something like that. And he said, "Come follow me." And immediately they dropped what they were doing and they followed him. All right? Because they recognized something. He just said the words, "Come follow me." He didn't even tell them who he was. Nothing. He just spoke to them. And they looked upon him, and it was sufficient for them to believe, where they left behind all their things. Peter was married, because we know that his wife's mother was sick with a fever, and HaMashayach came and healed her. But yet you don't hear Peter talking about his wife. I'm sure they had children too. But they walked away from their lives. This is the calling, the higher calling, that some of us have to be prepared to walk in. Some of us, it's easier if you're single when he makes that call. It is easier because you don't have a spouse and children to deal with. But nevertheless, there's still other things in your life that can make the call or answering the call difficult. But what makes it easy is when our hearts are not beholden to the things of this earth, the things of this world. We're not caught up trying to live like the Joneses next door. Yes, you went to school with a whole bunch of people, and you look at them and they're living, have their careers, their homes, their children, and what have you. But you have decided to give all that up. Even from the very beginning, you were not in pursuit of those things. Why? Because you were chosen. You were chosen, and so your heart never really cared for those things. You pursue them at first thinking, well, this is the thing I need to do, but then it doesn't make sense to you to pursue these things. So you stop, especially when you have an encounter with the Most High. You definitely will stop, and you start to pursue Him. Some of us, I remember I was pursuing ministry. And even that, He said, no, because you're not pursuing my ministry, you're pursuing the ministry of a church. The church is dictating to you the ministry that you're pursuing. So even that I had to quit. Dropped it. All right? And why are we doing all of this? So that we can make sure that our names are not blotted out of the Lamb's Book of Life, that we make it into the regathering when it occurs, so that we can make it into the new holy city called Yarawashalam. And that's the ending of Revelation chapter 21. We're going to start 22 pretty soon if he does not. He's the one that's delaying me. I am not delaying myself. I like I said, I finished this particular this particular study a long time now, and I've recorded it at least 3 times already. This is possibly my 4th time recording it. And each time I recorded it, he said, no, don't release it. And it seems like the last few studies, because the beginning of the study of Revelation went really, It went really fast until I came to Revelation chapter 20 and onward. Then I believe the reason why it has slowed down, the pace has slowed down, because I'm not releasing videos. I have plenty other videos. Don't get me wrong. I have other videos I can release. I have 3 days of darkness. I also have one called the name of Yahweh. All these I have in waiting to release when he says it's time to release them. So don't think that I'm not. I have plenty of stuff to release. But I had to focus on this one because I knew that this had to be finished. This particular study had to be completed. And I feel also the reason why chapters 20, 21, and 22 has become a little bit slower than all the other studies that I've ever done is because it is dealing with the new city, the new heavens, the new earth, and putting all the pieces together. Like he's taken me to all these different prophecies and the gospel and everything to bring the pieces together to paint the big picture, a complete picture, right? You can't rush the brush, so to speak. And it's taking time to get the fullness of the picture. So I have to go at his pace. Okay? So it's not for a lack of uh, work or time or anything. It was done. I still have I still have the one that I have done previously on YouTube ready to release, but I'm going to delete it and upload this one instead because this one I believe now is completed. The part about the from Yarawashalam chapter 14 verse 2 and onward, I think 2 and 3, talking about in my father's house are many mansions, that had to be a part of this study so that he wanted us to understand the promise that is fourfold to be fulfilled. All right? So with that, I'm going to conclude with the blessing for Yashwa'al taken from Ba Madabar chapter 6, verse 24 to 26, the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verse 24 to 26. Yabarakak Yahweh wa Yashamarak. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. Ya'ar Yahweh panayo alayak wa yachanak. May Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you and have favor upon you. Yasha'a Yahweh panayo alayak wa yashamlak shalawam. May Yahweh lift up his face upon you and give you peace. And now we're going to read the command for Yashwa'al that we must recite when we lie down, when we get up, when we go out, and when we come in. And it's taken from the Alahayam, chapter 6, verse 4 and 5. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4 and 5. Shama'o Yashwa'al Yahweh Alahayana Yahweh Achad wa Ahabath Ath Yahweh Alahayak Bakal Babak Ubakal Napashat Ubakal Ma'adak. Hear, O Yashwa'al, Yahweh our Alahayam is one Yahweh, and you shall love Yahweh your Alahayam with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. Now, before I end this study, I hope I did say Bar Madabar, chapter 6, verse 24 to 26. It's the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verse 24 to 26 for the blessing for Yashua. And with that, I will say, Shalawam, Shalawam, all praises to the Most High, Abba Yah.